I'm now joined by Dean Wingrin, a defense analyst. Dean, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for taking so much of your time listening to those briefings. We had no idea how this was that this was going to pan out the way it did. But I want to kick off with that comment by the Minister of Defense saying, while she was there, and discussed with the generals that were on the ground. At no stage did the general indicate that they have no resources or that they were running out of ammunition.
Yes, good afternoon, V and the viewers. The minister was there. I think she arrived on Wednesday last week when she arrived in Kinshasa, and then went, I think, to Goma on the Thursday. And it was only on the Thursday that M23 attacked Sake, which is about 25 kilometers to the northwest. So it was very, very early in M23's advance towards Goma. And so at that stage, I don't think the generals foresaw just what an intensive battle was coming up. And they should have had sufficient quantities of ammunition and foreseen that they would require sufficient quantities when they set up the mission. And because they might call it a peacekeeping mission, but if you look at the mandate of the SADC mission, and if you look at its planning, it's clearly an offensive peace enforcing mission, and not just purely a stand back peacekeeping mission. So when M23 attacked, it really put South Africa on the back foot, and it was I don't think it was sufficiently equipped to start off with. So it certainly wasn't in the best position to hold off the rebels.
When she started speaking, she said or cited security reasons for why she can't get into the detail of what happened, including, of course, what she called the strategic capabilities of the SADC mission there, which the Deputy Minister of Defense, Bantu Olumisa, to some extent actually went into. And if my understanding is correct, that is really what people have been raising. In other words, we're not talking about rounding out of ammunition last week, per se, but we're talking about the overall ability of the South African contingent as part of the SADC mission to actually do what it's meant to do on the ground. And I think that's where the minister, in my view, sort of isn't looking at the bigger picture or the more important and fundamental questions that everyone has been raising.
Indeed, and it's been very surprising and, if I may say, disheartening that it's taken in exactly a week for our president or the minister to say anything regarding the deaths of our brothers and sisters so far away from our borders. And it's only now that I think after sufficient pressure has been borne against them that they are saying something. And it's not from lack of anybody saying and warning them. I mean, it's for at least the last 2 years. Analysts, military, people within the military and outside have been warning the government that the mission is not sufficiently capacitated. It lacks air support. It lacks logistic support. It's the soldiers that are based there are complaining about not having hot meals, about not having enough. If you look at the accommodation, it's intense. And they've been warned about this all this time. And it only shows the true grit of the South African soldier that they have borne this weight and acquitted themselves very well. And it's more, I think, from the senior leadership that has let them down.
And I don't know what to read from a couple of things that General Bantu Olomisa mentioned, which was one, obviously the overall issue of resourcing the Defence Force adequately, but also something he mentioned kind of almost in passing when he was saying that if you look at the events of the past week, they were also, the South African National Defence Force was let down by their Congolese and Burundi counterparts, which then speaks to or raises questions about us being part of this big mission and being the big brother that some people have been saying over the past few days we are, and we need and that comes with responsibilities. But if you're going into a situation like the one we are in right now, with people who don't have the same capabilities that you have, or who may not be as committed. Again, I'm saying this subject to being corrected about what the general actually meant. Then you clearly have a challenge there, don't you?
Exactly. I mean, we say we're up against a rebel group, the main one being M23, but they're far from a ragtag rebel group we might be thinking of. I mean, this is a very well-equipped, well-trained, well-supported group of soldiers by Rwanda. And by all accounts, there's Rwandan Defence Force elements embedded in the M23 group. So this group, the M23, Rwanda, they operate aerial vehicles, they operate drones, guided mortars. These are things that South Africa just doesn't have there. They even have surface-to-air missile batteries that accompany them, and which makes it even more difficult for the Congolese Air Force to provide any cover to the Allied troops up there. So South Africa has suffered a defense budget decline in real terms for the last decade. It's averaging about, the budget's averaging about 0.7% of our GDP, where, you know, the average is about 1.25, 1.5%. And the new thinking now is 2% and above. And once your capabilities atrophy to such an extent, it costs a significant amount of money to get those capabilities back. And you don't just get it back immediately either. You know, it takes years. It can take a decade from putting out the tender to choosing the equipment and the equipment to be manufactured and delivered. And South Africa is really falling behind. And if they are going to go on these international excursions and missions, you know, they've got to be sufficiently equipped and protected in order to do that, because the modern battlefield is not forgiving. And any slip, any way that you're lacking in a capability, the enemy will take advantage of that, as we have seen.
I mean, if we're lacking in capability, one wonders what the minister meant when she said that they had warned those who were firing over our heads. President Cyril Ramaphosa made it clear that we'll take that as a declaration of war. But if we have no capability of returning fire with fire or defending ourselves, what would that mean, possibly?
Yes, I mean, the DRC, Eastern DRC is 3,000 kilometers away. I don't want to be giving away operational secrets and so on that the Defence Force might be working on, but it's difficult to see at this stage what they can do. And I think the only way for South Africa to extricate itself from this is on a diplomatic way. We've heard the minister and deputy minister say that you know, they're engaging with the UN to facilitate this. And South Africa needs to take a very hard look at, you know, its capabilities and what its future endeavors in supporting missions in the rest of Africa. In 2013, we had the Battle of Bangui. Some very hard lessons were learned. And I think they've been forgotten already. And we certainly don't have the capabilities that we had in 2013, where we within 2 or 3 days we had Roy Falks very close by. We deployed a couple of Gripens to Kinshasa, and some other aircraft and capabilities could be taken from the DRC in support of any possible action over there. Unfortunately, at the moment, our capabilities are severely lacking.
Dean Wingrin, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.